Hello, you guys. We are here, and hey. We're a day after typical recording, but yesterday was President's Day, so I had children with me. So I was like, can we bump this?
She's always ready to bump it, boy.
I really am. I'm down to. I don't know why I'm always like that, but I'm cool with it.
Like, oh, let's just move the day. Let's just do it. No, this is when I have it scheduled. Get a babysitter for your kid, and let's stick to the scheduled time. Okay.
It felt weird though. I didn't do a lot of work yesterday, but it was good. It was fine. I was not stressed out.
I feel like I haven't talked to y'all in a long time. How's life?
I feel like so too. Well, yeah, because I haven't talked to you, Amber. I mean, I talked to you via text, but welcome to our podcast. Hey guys, my name is Olivia Hayward.
What's up? It's your girl, Courage Molina.
Oh, it's Amber Likens, and this is my CEO Squad. Before you leave our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you never miss an upload. In the comments, let us know where you're tuning in from, and we cannot wait to get to know you more. Let's go ahead and start this conversation.
The band's breaking up is so hard.
First of all, it's only been Saturday.
To say goodbye.
I didn't talk to you on Saturday.
To my homies.
It does feel weird. Like the weekend sometimes does feel like days and days, but it's like a day and a half, 2 days. It's not.
I feel like did we talk on Friday? I feel like I haven't talked to y'all in weeks.
First of all, you are exaggerating.
Friday. Yeah, I did talk to y'all Friday for a little bit. I was at home Friday.
Is when you was having a meltdown.
Is it?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I don't think I talked to y'all Friday.
I talked to you Friday morning when you were driving home.
When I was driving home.
You got on the phone with all of us, Erica. And
to let y'all know about my time. First of all, anytime I have to put my car in park on a highway, that is going to cause me. I need some coping, some drugs, something. Because if I have to literally put my car in park, like I shifted the gear to park, and I sit there for what? Oh my gosh. First of all, y'all know this phone. I don't know what the heck is happening, but I can hear my phone. Can y'all hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear your phone.
Was that Michael Jackson?
First of all, it's Michael Jackson. I don't even know where it's coming from.
Turn the volume down.
I don't know what is happening.
I haven't driven in traffic in a long time. Like purposefully, like I'm driving to a busy area at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, or like 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I haven't done that in a long time. Now going on a trip, we've hit traffic or something.
But wait a minute, you don't have any traffic in the morning when you're dropping off your kids?
I never, unless there's an accident, but thank goodness we don't have a lot of accidents. That's great. Mm-hmm. But no, I really don't hit I mean, I hit red lights. That's typical driving in, but no. Yeah. No. And going home, we don't have any traffic because we're missing everybody, you know?
Well, I don't drive for work, which y'all know, so I can choose to drive when I get ready to drive. And I try to choose a time that is going to minimize the number of people on the road if I can. If I can't, it's fine. Yeah. I have my mind ready for the amount of traffic that I'm going to deal with. But on Friday, we left at 6 a.m. and I didn't get back to my house till 9 o'clock in the morning. And we're talking a 30 to 40 minute drive, one way. So normally it takes me about an hour and 15, even with traffic. So I'm ready for that. So to literally be in my car in park for like an hour. And I was like praying. I'm like, God, please help me to like have the right attitude, because this is an inconvenience. It's not a tragedy. Right? Like what I'm dealing with is an inconvenience. It's not a crisis. And I think that's a great attitude to have and a great perspective. But my emotions and my body was not falling in line. They were like, screw that. We are sitting in this traffic. It's hot now. We're breathing in. My car turns off basically like when you're just sitting, you know how the engine turns off? So that brings all the air and all of that down. Now we fogging up the place, and not in a good way. You know what I'm saying? We just fogging it up, sitting in the dang car. I could not. And it was at the end of a very long week. I had a very long week last week of like taking Mike to work and coming home. I was exhausted. The dogs were barking. So right after all of those days, by Friday, I was actually like, I'm going to start doing drugs. Because I don't have an unhealthy coping mechanism to deal with this. And so I just think I should do drugs. If I'm going to have this, then I'm going to start doing cocaine is what I decided. I did not do it, just in case anybody's wondering. I'm not interested, so don't be sending me nothing in the mail. But it was just so extreme. Yeah, it was rough, bro. Friday, I was exhausted. I was crying. I had cryorrhea, which is a term that I use to describe when you cannot stop crying, very similar to diarrhea. Cryorrhea. I had cryorrhea on Friday.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I don't know where we were one time, but you were like, no, we were Old Navy like 2 weeks ago, and they had tissues, and I was like, and you were going on your other trip. And I was like, here, you need to take these. You're like, no, I don't need those. And you were like, I'm not going to be crying. I'm like, you don't know when you're going to be crying. You just randomly cry. So you need tissues. You need to be prepared. Yeah, it is. That is definitely.
My little cousin, when she was like 3, Miley, actually. Shout out to Miley Jackson, who's not listening to this podcast. But when she was like 2 or 3, she's a little thing. She was like skinny, and she looked like a little old lady. She was so cute, and she used to keep this handkerchief in her pocket because she would just start crying and whining all the time, and it would be like, oh, Miley, wipe her eye, and she would pull the handkerchief out, and she would dap at her little eyes. She had a cloth handkerchief, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's what I need. Maybe I need that so I can be like, you never know when you're gonna start. Yeah, Friday I did have a complete meltdown. Yes. Oh, I feel so different from the woman who had a meltdown. I feel really good today, guys.
That's good.
You know, for lots of reasons, I didn't have to take anybody to work. So I wasn't exhausted. And I don't mean to say like, it was fine taking him to work. It was just too many things, right? It would have been fine taking him to work to take him, and I got a good night's sleep. But that didn't happen, right? It wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
no sleep, early traffic.
It's too much.
Yeah. Yep. Hit you all at one time.
Work not done.
It was too much. That was the biggest thing too. My sermon. So you guys know I'm a pastor, and I never thought about how pastors do their sermons. Like I never thought about that as like a person who goes, either it was really good or it wasn't. Sometimes I thought to myself it was really good. Like, oh, I wonder not how much time they spent prepping, but I wonder how much time they studied the Bible just like in general, right? If it's really good. But I never really thought about like sermon prep. Mm-hmm. Child, normally, even if I don't have it written down, this is a place for like I feel fine if I know where it's going. So I always know the verse or the scripture that it's going to come from, this section of scripture it's going to come from, because of the way we do church. I choose a book, and then we just do one a month, right? Like not a month, one a week, one chapter a week. So I always know where it's coming from. But what I need to feel good, to feel like the Lord is with me, is I need to know where we're going. And then, so I know what scripture we're coming from and I know where we're going. Now I just need to, get in the details or whatever. That I feel good about. When I tell you I didn't have nothing on Friday, not a thing. They were like, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. Olivia was like, well, do you know what scripture you're going to focus on? I was like, no. She was like, well, that's fine. But the real question is, do you know like what the point is that you're going to be? I'm like, no, I got nothing. And I felt like I couldn't hear from God. And all week I have been trying. So that is probably what took me to the nth degree. Like everything else, maybe I would have been fine with, but not being that right there. I was like, you know what? I was crying. I was like, maybe the Lord has removed his hand from me. Maybe I'm no longer like, the word of God says, How long will you mourn for Saul? I have chosen a new king in Israel. Like, stop crying, move on. I'm like, maybe the Lord is saying he has chosen a new queen for this church and it ain't me. And my anointing is gone. Pastor Stephen preached
so dramatic.
Pastor Stephen preached a sermon one time. He said he does not have FOMO. It's FORO, fear of running out. I felt that, but I never heard anybody else say that. And when he said it, I was like, that's it. And I don't know if other pastors feel like that, but when I tell you it's that right there, that one of these days you're going to open up your Bible to study, to bring a word to the people, and the Lord's going to be like, nope, you got you to run out of stuff to say.
I think that really can go to any profession, to any creative, to any person, right? Because I feel like that too sometimes. Like, oh,
you think you're going to run out of creativity?
Mm-hmm. It's called in the art world, they call it either art block or creative block, right? Because sometimes you just feel like you can't come up with an idea, and it's actually very scary because you feel like, oh, I do this every day. This is what I do, and it's like I think Sunday, I had sat down to make some stuff. I literally was for 2 hours just like, what am I? It's like you have all of these. I had all of these ideas before I was making, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, or this. But then when I sat down, I literally could not think of like, oh, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I want to do something. I know I want to do something different. It was like 2 hours of me just. I wasn't even looking at. I was just sitting here like, am I just sitting here staring at my side over there, just staring? I was just sitting there staring at that wall. Like, what am I going to do?
What would be your takeaway then? So both of y'all have faced that. One, so what would you do when you do feel like I have this idea, I do have this
I'm interrupting you. No.
Yeah, because...
What about, do you not experience this?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, when it comes to like makeup.
No questions. Yeah, you're not about to be asking us no questions. Do you not experience, like, when it comes to like makeup and
creative
videos, do you feel like it's always there?
I don't know. When y'all were speaking on that, and I was like, do I have that too? I think I've not. If I do, I don't think I've realized what it is.
That's what I know. I didn't at first.
Yeah, I definitely think that's happened because nothing's inspiring me to do and I'm like, I do the same thing all the time, or I create the same things. I have the same makeup products. And sometimes you can think of 1,000 things to do with those items. And then sometimes you feel like you're tapped out. So I definitely think I've faced that. I just didn't know what it was.
It's very interesting. Okay, now ask the question.
What do we do in those situations? What do you do listening? So if you're listening right now and you're like, I face that every week or whatever, maybe you face it more than you would like to. When you do think of an idea, there has to be a strategy in place that you have to implement right then so you don't forget it. So a lot of times it's getting your notebook out and writing it down and it's there. Or getting your notes in your phone, writing it down so it's there.
There's nothing. No, this is the problem. There's nothing there.
No, she's talking about during the times. So I think you're talking about during the times where you got these ideas.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That might work. But for me, and I don't know if y'all can speak to this. Sometimes, okay, I got these ideas, or I kind of have an idea, or like whatever. I'm teaching Bible, right? So I could pick a verse. All the verses are good verses. I could literally pick a verse and break it down and just teach that verse.
Right.
But for me, and I don't know if the same is true for y'all, sometimes I can have a bunch of stuff written down or have a lot of things available to me, but that connection, it does not speak to me. So it does not allow, like, I can do it, but it's going to be like dead.
It's not gonna come up. Yeah.
It's not going to be, I'm going to be bored. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, I taught that, but I don't even want to hear. There's got to be this connection for me. And I feel like this is probably true for y'all too. There's got to be this connection to the source so that when I see this idea, that stuff that flows from me can flow from me. Having a list of ideas, even if they were from my own brain. I just tried to record a podcast. I'm pretty sure I'm going to delete it. It's been up there. Check out Bold Faith podcast with Courage Molina. It's been on my board for weeks. Like, okay, I know that this is the next podcast episode that I need to do. When I saw it, I looked at it today. It's time for me to record it. I wasn't feeling it. I did it. First of all, at 16 minutes, I don't have nothing else to say. Oh, it's not a good thing. But I just forced myself to get to 30 minutes so that I have it. But now I'm like, now that I'm talking to y'all, I'm like, oh, I can't put that out there. I knew I couldn't put it out there, but I was really going to try. So even with ideas, sometimes you can't. Do y'all feel that way sometimes? Like,
No,
even when you have
100%.
ideas?
I can have, first of all, that's the first thing I did, because a lot of times when I see stuff that may inspire me or trigger a different feeling, like, oh, I can make this or do this, I look at all of those before, at the beginning, like before I even start just staring at the space. I looked at all of those. None of those things, just because you need a spark, like you say, you need something to activate. Because when you are, especially when you are doing something original and creative to yourself, I don't want to make a carbon copy of anything. I want this to inspire me to create something from me. And if I look at this thing and it's not sparking, it's not giving me, I couldn't still, even when I looked at stuff, it wasn't given. Even when I looked at stuff that was supposedly, I bookmarked, I looked at Pinterest, all of those things, and nothing was doing it for me. So I literally was like, and then after just sitting there, I think one of the things that I did is, instead of just like moving on, I just sat there. I just sat in it for like an hour. I did not move, and I just thought, and I just processed, and then I just start making stuff, and then it started flowing. So
when we went through a phase last year of, we were reading the same books at the same time, I think, and then I just totally fell off like 2 months in. But that's what reminded me right now as y'all are speaking about it. It's sometimes not even the scroll or the book or whatever, but it's something that one sentence, one something stood out to you, and that triggered an idea, or that triggered something that was vaulted back. Like, right? It's always back, like in the vault that you can't, even unlock yet. And that's how I always have to think about things, is that we're full of ideas. We're full of some genius things that have to do with our creative space of what we do with our profession, but we can't unlock it until something else is unlocked. And so, but how do you unlock it? And I think it's just constantly consuming information with what you love. And so you love studying the Bible. That is what you do. You are reading different Bibles and different materials and different studies, and that's what you do. And then boom, we can have a 5-minute less than conversation with Courage, and she's like, I gotta go. I got a word. And it's just like, we didn't say anything, but something that you studied prior allowed you to kind of unlock some stuff. But then when you spoke to us, it's like it just clicked, and you're like, that's it. And it has nothing to do with what we said. It's just now you ran with it. And Olivia, like, I was out yesterday and a woman stopped me and she was like, I love your earrings. Which I got to ask y'all something about this, because I kind of have this weird feeling when someone stops me ever and talks about the earrings that I wear, which it happens a lot. Typically they follow up with, well, who is she? Because this is how it happens. They go, man, I love your earrings. And I'm like, a design, because this is who I am. I just have to add the extra. A designer out of Tallahassee makes them, and they're all handmade and like all unique, and they're like, oh, that's so pretty. And then sometimes they don't follow up with like, who is she? Who is the designer? It's like, okay. And then they just move on, and then I move on. I'm like, okay. But sometimes they're like, well, who is she? I wanted to know. I'm like, Olivia Hayward, look her up. And then I'm always like, go to her website, use this 10% on your first purchase or something like that. Like a conversation's happening. This did not happen yesterday. And so I felt, because of my history with like what I've done with network marketing, I cannot stand to follow up like, and then go to her name, look her up, and then do this or whatever. I don't know why in my head it's like a block. So I didn't do that yesterday, but I was like, why didn't she ask me who the designer was? Freaking fake. So annoying. If you like them, I would be like, well, who's the designer?
Oh my gosh. She needs some help. This is what I love what you said about like constantly. I think instead of constantly, I like the word consistently. I think there are things that we can do to help us to be our best selves, things we can do consistently. Right. And I don't know about for Olivia, but for me, I was out of routine, and I had been out of routine for weeks, right? So this year has just been crazy, and not like horrible or anything like that. It's just not been my normal. I plan on Sunday. These are the things that I'm doing. It just has not been that type of year for me so far this year. And so the things that I do to be my best self, my morning routine, check out the Boulder morning routine, right? Like that thing, I'm doing that every day. I'm reading books. I'm reading my Bible, watching sermons, watching even my relaxing things, talking to y'all, walking outside in the like actual nature. All of those things put your mind, your emotional and mental state like in the best place for whatever it is that you have to do, right? And I have been weeks without that because do you know who I am? Do you know me? For me to be weeks without consistently doing that stuff is absolutely in freaking sanity. I don't know what kind of I'm already on drugs. I don't know why I want to start drugs because I'm clearly already on them, right? If I haven't been doing my thing. And I think sometimes like if you've been doing that consistently, that kind of prevents against the block a bit or reduces the likeliness that you're going to get stuck. And I think that in the times where you get stuck, you have to get away from the thing, right? So, okay, I'm stuck. Let me sit here in this space for a little bit. Maybe not no 2 hours, girl. Let me sit here. You better than that. And the reason I say you're better than that is because you are a artisan. You are a creative genius. You don't need no 2 hours. Like, stop. So once you get to about 30 minutes, no. Once you get to 30 minutes, you need to get up and leave that space. You need to go for a walk. You need to watch TV. You need to take a nap. You need to be like, that's it. I'm done. Why? Because this is the life that you live, right? You live this life. You are very creative and however much time it normally takes you, right? I don't need to sit for 2 hours. I don't need to sit for 2 hours with no clue as to where I'm going, staring off into space to get a word from God. That's not a thing. It's just not a thing. Our partnership is not like that. So if I'm here for like 30 minutes sitting here trying to push it out and I don't get it, I have to get up from my desk and sit on my bed. And I need to put my music on and I need to just drink and kind of, be like, this is so crazy. For me, it's pretty like, I'm not really complaining, but what are you doing right now? Because it's Friday at this time. And I know you know what time I got church tomorrow, sir. So where you at? Where the Holy Spirit? What y'all doing? I know y'all don't take breaks. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got a traffic jam? Because I ain't getting no communicado, right? Or go for like a walk because that's what happened. I was doing all that crying. What I really needed was to take a nap because I was exhausted. I needed to take a nap because I was exhausted. I needed to cry and pray because I was emotionally spent. And then I talked to y'all. I still didn't get anything done because I was talking to y'all about the problem instead of just talking to y'all about your life or seeing what's going on or what are y'all doing, right? I didn't need to continue to talk to y'all about the problem. Later that day, I got on the phone with my friend Erica and Lydia, and we were just talking about her summit, and we were talking about the stuff that she's got going on with her summit and all of this stuff. And I was like, I still don't have anything, but I'm about to make this hot chocolate and just go to bed. So I sat in my bed downstairs, sipping my hot chocolate. And I was like, I can't believe I really don't have a sermon. And then it was like, boom. Do you know how long it took me to outline that sermon? Less than 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes from my bed to sitting here and writing it out. So I think you don't know what's going to be the thing to break the block, but I think like being consistent in the things that make you your best self, I think that's super important. And I think having a cutoff time for how long you're going to sit and try and force it when you know it's not like you can feel when you're almost there.
Well, I'm going to say this. When you say I needed the 2 hours to sit there. And the reason why for me specifically is because
I don't believe it.
Because I will walk away from it. I've done that all week. I did that all week. I sat there. I was like, oh, I'm going to make something today. And I walk away or whatever. And nothing comes. But for me, when I say sit there, I don't for, a good hour, 45 minutes. I was, when I first started the session, that's when I tried to look for inspiration, right? Some of the stuff I had on my phone, Pinterest, things like that, right? Just trying to look for like color. I didn't even know what I know I wanted. I wanted to make
if ever
something.
you need a color, start with black.
That's I already, first of all, I already have so much black stuff. So I was just like, I knew I wanted to make something different, spring, whatever. And so when I say I was there for 2 hours, it was just the whole session, the inspiration, the staring, then I just start playing with colors, just like I wasn't making anything, but I was just like mixing up colors, and then I was making patterns. And
all right, so time out. I'm going to cut you off real quick because I want them to hear. We are both on the same page. We're saying the same thing. I'm saying don't do it. Don't sit for 2 hours doing nothing. And that's what I thought you meant. You were just sitting trying to come up with from your brain something. You had a 2 hour like discovery session. And I say that because a 2 hour discovery session is something. It's not sitting 30 minutes. It's not sitting 2 hours. Like, what am I going to make? What am I going to make? What am I going to make? So when you were like, when you said I just sat, I thought you meant you were literally sitting there for 2 hours, like staring into space. And I was going to say,
there was some, it was some definitely staring into space. It was definitely some like,
but it was active. It was active sitting. I think that's like, great. Yes. I agree with that. Active sitting. So I'm going to go through, and these 2 hours, you went through all of the things that you would normally do to find inspiration. I think that is great. Yes, that's beautiful.
So that was my Sunday.
Would you come up with nothing still?
Yeah, no.
How'd you end it?
Yeah, I made
because Courage talked about how she ended it, and then you were able to outline it in 10 minutes, and then you did make some things.
And I had to go live. I ended up having, that was another thing. Since the sabbatical, I have been pre-recording church, and then we stream it live, which I really like. I really like that just because of my type of personality. But I couldn't do that. There wasn't enough time. I was too exhausted. And so I actually had to go live, had to go live on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. from my home. It just always makes me nervous to be live streaming to the world. It's a world. YouTube is a world stage. So that kind of makes me nervous because there's a certain level of professionalism and like quality that I want to have when I'm doing that, because it's not just my community. It's like anybody can find us. So I really want it to be high level. So I had to do that, which I was like, I'm really going to be going live. But that going live was different than any other time. Normally, like back in the day, not back in the day, but when I used to go live, I used to be very nervous in the morning, like sick to my stomach. Every time. And I've been doing this for a long time. I used to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Olivia's like, really? Still? I'm like, yes, I'm nervous every time. You don't have to ask me if I'm nervous. I'm on here. You about to hit live stream. I'm telling you right now, I'm nervous. My stomach that's why I don't eat. My stomach is bubbling from 5 a.m. when I get up. I'm like, I can't eat. I'm about to vomit. I'm nervous. But that was the first time I wasn't nervous, like right before the live. So, yeah. Maybe that's what I needed to graduate. Yeah, that felt good. I was like, okay, I ain't nervous. I'm hungry. Let me fix me a little snacky snack right now before I get on this thing. Yeah, that was very different than normal. But yeah. So how do you get through it, Amber? When you get in those situations, how do you get through that?
Well, I was thinking like last week, I felt maybe I was hitting that like creative block because I did not do my makeup one time last week for any of my beauty, anything like shorts, long form, community, and my collectives. I didn't do any makeup. I really didn't even put on makeup last week, except a tiny bit on. Maybe it was Monday. One of those days I put it on for a live. And then after that, I just went through. I think what sets me off is like when I physically don't feel well. And last week I just didn't feel well. And I wasn't physically sick where you could see it on the outside, but like mentally in my body wasn't well. And
are you going to share? I'm going to pull an Amber. Are you going to share with people why you weren't feeling well last week? Because they don't know. Okay.
I'll share. So my days are really blurred, honestly. They really blurred together. But Monday, I was feeling pretty good. And like I said, I went live. I recorded a lot for my vlog that goes out weekly. Tuesday was Valentine's. And then Wednesday was a typical like busy running around day. And then Thursday, I feel like that Thursday night, it hit me harder. It was like gradually getting worse. But so I am a type 1 diabetic. In 2012, I was diagnosed. And so obviously it's 2023. It's been a long time that I've been dealing with this. And so I know how it affects my body. But you sometimes don't know what's making your blood sugar spike or drop. It's really so hard. My sister was asking me yesterday, what makes it do this? Is there something consistently that you know that you do, or if you eat or do something like your body just acts up? I'm like, to be honest with you, I really don't know. And I wish I had an answer for that because it's very inconsistent. But I went really low last week and I went really high last week in like a matter of like 48 hours. And so when that happened, it just takes me down. Even though I can still physically do stuff, it just drains me. It feels like you've had a stomach bug or something for like a week and then you recover for another week. You know, it just like your energy is off. And so I don't know if that was a combination to me not doing any of my makeup, because typically me sitting at my vanity doing my makeup makes me very happy, but I didn't have the energy to do it. And even if I did, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I did face that. And I will tell you what I have to do in those situations is I have to say it is okay. And I have to give myself permission to be okay with not doing it. I think a lot of times we are very hard on ourselves as women. Yes. And we actually talk very unkind to our own self. And we're like, well, now you suck and you're a failure and your people are going to be so disappointed in you because you didn't do what you said you were going to do. But life happens and we cannot control that, to be honest. There's so much that we're out of control of, even though we try to control so much of our health and our day-to-day movement. But I just had to go like, you know what? It's okay. It's fine. My people are actually not going to be disappointed. They're going to love me even more because I'm honest with them, right? They're going to appreciate it more that I have normalcy things like that they think I don't have, right? I think when you show up on video, and y'all too, it's like their life is so great. They never have bad things. And I think it's so nice to share when things aren't good. Sometimes I think there's a good balance. You don't want to share too much because it's your personal life. It's actually what you're dealing with. But I dealt with that last week. And then Sunday, we were driving home from church, and then we had small group and things like that. And we were driving home, and I was like, Alan, go to Ulta. Pull into Ulta. I need a few things, I'm like, just go in real quick. Meanwhile, they were tracking me because they were like 5 people went in behind you and actually came out before you did. So what?
Wow.
I really did need something, and that I keep since last year, I've gone to the makeup store multiple times every month. Just on rotation, I need a few more things. Well, it is my birthday month, and they send you emails, come get your free whatever, your gift or something. And they had some other specials going on that I wanted to, be a part of. And so I went in and I got that. But then when I was in there, I was like, let me read some stuff. Let me test some things out. So that made me feel really good, even though I didn't use them or try them for the vlog or do anything like that yet. It was like, that gave me a little bit more energy. And I also want to say this to anybody that is dealing with this, that you think, well, I need to create this because this is what everybody else is doing. Right. I feel like that in the makeup industry, that there's so much makeup to try, to purchase, to give your opinion on. And you know what? I've kind of like came to the place in my life that I don't have to try everything, and I'm okay with that. I need to try actually what I have found works and talk about that thing, and not be the one that's like every 2 seconds I'm trying something new and people can't keep up with it. I want to be consistent. I want to try something good, and I want to support that. And so, but I also enjoy tapping into new things. So I do that as well. But that kind of hit me this week too. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do what I need to do. So for my people, right, we have to realize we have an audience we show up for. sometimes they haven't even met you yet and you haven't met them, but you have a community of people out there that want your content, that want you. And, you know, you can't please everybody. So just be okay with that. So
I like that. I want to give a recap because I feel like we said a lot of things. And so if you're like, okay, that's a lot of, but I don't know really what to write down as far as like what I can do. I just want you to hear some of the patterns that I saw or that I heard as the three of us shared. So, Olivia, let me ask you a question before I do it. Did you, yeah, just real quick, because I'm about to get this little recap. Did you, how did you feel last week? Like physically, emotionally, were you sleeping? Because I know sometimes like you get sick, or you're not sleeping, or you're coughing, or you're like kind of stressed out, or you've just had a lot of deadlines, and so you're kind of already stretched thin. How were things for you, like maybe the few days or the week preceding that before I go? I'm curious.
Yeah, it was actually pretty easy. I had no like hard deadlines last week, and it was the only deadline I had was like I wanted to make some new stuff. Like I wanted to make some new stuff. But yeah, I did not have a very stressful week at all, honestly.
Okay, I love that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so this is what I want y'all to hear. 2 out of the 3 of us, Amber and I, were both physically exhausted, which leads to emotional and mental exhaustion, right? So what is it that I need to put in place? And it's not about perfection. It's just about the lifestyle. What is it that I need to put in place so that I can have the most stability for my physical, emotional, and mental health? Amber said that she's a type 1 diabetic. She's also most like 95% plant-based, right? And that is a decision that she did not make in 2012. It's a decision that she kind of made later. And maybe she didn't make it for the diagnoses, but there certainly is some benefit to her physically being plant-based as a type 1 diabetic. So she is doing something every day, all the time to support herself physically, mentally, and emotionally. The same thing is true for me. I get my sleep. I'm not a girl who doesn't get sleep. So for me to not be able to sleep, for me to be exhausted, for me to be under all this pressure and all these deadlines and not having those things where my physical health was supported, that led to a blockage, right? Like that led to blockage. So what you need to understand about creative blocks is that 2 out of 3 of us experienced a creative block due to our physical and emotional health, right? Our physical health had a direct impact on our mental and emotional health. So what is it that you need to be doing to take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally to stave against this creative block? The other thing that I want you to hear, every single one of us talked about doing things that inspired us, right? What is it that I need to do to get inspired during those times? So now the blockage is here. I've had these things. What is it that I need to do to get through this blockage? Well, what are the things that inspire you? And I don't just mean inspire you to create the thing that you do, but just gets you in your happy place, right? I don't do makeup like that. Like that's obviously not my job, but it's probably Sephora more than Ulta, puts me in my happy place. Like I'm like, oh, this is just so cute, and I could try this. And that's first of all, I'm only trying basic brown stuff, but when I go in there, that does inspire me. There are shows that I watch that just make me feel good, right? So Olivia went to a place of like inspiration, looking at things, trying new things. What she said, and she used this word. I think this word is so huge and we don't use it enough as adults. You said play. I played around. Mm-hmm. Play is important. You're creative. Everything ain't got to be so serious. Like, please, dear God in heaven, play, right? Have some fun. Amber, first of all, how her husband, shout out Alan, he ain't listening to this, but I know he's slipping on his pimping. He was just doing it out of love. He knew better. He had to. There's no way he was like, oh, I'm going to take her by the store and she's not going to be in there playing in the sandbox. Psych. You know what I'm saying? She's not going to be like, oh, I forgot my ball on the playground. Just let me go get my ball from the playground. No, she's going to be on the seesaw. She's going to be on the merry-go-round. And they're on the wrong side of the park. You ain't supposed to be over here. What you doing over here? I just wanted to see what they had. I thought there was a turtle over here. She's going to be exploring, right? Which for Amber is like play. We all talked about doing things that inspired us. The other thing I want you, so first of all, physical, make sure you are physically taken care of, like as consistently, like that's your lifestyle, right? Because that can have a negative impact on your creativity. And when you get to a block, choosing to take some time to get inspired, to have fun, to play, right? So that you can get those creative juices going. The other thing I want you to hear us that we all talked about, just in case you don't notice about us, we have a brand already. And I say that respectfully. Okay. And I say this because of something that Amber said. I want you to know that we have a brand, because y'all might be similar. Y'all might be starting out, but we ain't the same. We ain't all the same. We all have a brand. Do you know what that means? It means that we have spent time in, we have already put in time being consistent, and our audience knows that they can trust us, that they like us, that they know us, that it's not new. Yes, we want to grow, we want to expand, but we have been showing up with high quality products for seasons and seasons. And because of that, it is easier for us to give ourselves some grace. It's okay for and I'm not saying for you not to give yourself some grace. I just want to recognize that I understand it could be harder for you to give yourself some grace because you ain't got no follow. These people don't know you and you haven't been consistent. Right? You haven't been consistent enough to take a week off. I actually thought of that like Friday. I was like, maybe I will cancel church. And I can tell you right now, I've never canceled church. Not ever. We started in December 2020. I've never had a weekend that was unscheduled off. The last 2 weekends of the year, we don't have church, but that is on the calendar. Everybody knows it. Even when I'm on sabbatical, church still is going on. Right? And I thought to myself, well, I could cancel it. There's my audience, my congregation isn't going to be like, oh, we're not coming back next Sunday because first of all, they're going to be praying for me. Oh, she canceled church. Something wrong with her. We need to be praying. Something tragic didn't happen. People going to be fasting and standing in the gap for me. Why? Because we show up consistently and we have built this brand. So that's the other thing. You want to give yourself the leverage to be able to have creative blocks because they're going to come. I feel like they come kind of further on once you've been in it for a while, because in the beginning it's all new. So it's like there's so many things you want to do that you haven't done. You haven't had a chance to get to this creative block. When you're in that beginning stage, you need to show up. You need to be showing up so that when you get to a place where you have a creative block, you can give yourself grace and not worry about your audience, your congregation, your clients, your customers, whoever. You don't have to worry about them leaving you or being like, oh my gosh, she's inconsistent. But in order for that to happen, you have to already be consistently showing up. I think that is really, really important. It's impossible to give yourself grace for not showing up. Because here's the thing, people who give up and don't show up all the time, and I say this like so nice. I mean this in the nicest possible way. Y'all don't care. Like that's the truth. You care less about your audience than you do about yourself, about the difficulty or the obstacle that you have to overcome in order to show up consistently. Your background, your lighting, your what, like you care less about your showing up for your audience consistently. Just don't care that much about it. You care more about all the other things that keep you from doing it. But when you get to a place where you are like, you have to encourage yourself to take a break because truthfully, you don't have it in you. It's because you care so much about your audience. You care so much about your clients. You have to remind yourself, okay, this is fine. I am human. I need to take a break. And because I show up so consistently, I know my people are going to be okay with it.
I got to say something. Right? This say right here is a lot. I had a thought this morning driving in that we coach women, right? We all three coach, but differently. Yes. But I thought, how many women are we currently coaching that their calling is not what we're coaching them for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you know why it hit me is because I had a text message from somebody and it was all the things that she is like, why she's not recording yet, why she didn't start her recording yet. I'm not your boss. I just coach you and I'm here to encourage you, but it is okay. And I said that, like, it is okay. Like the more you do it, you know, it'll just, you evolve. It doesn't always have to be perfect, but we do have a formula that we're like, stick to this because it really helps. But I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. We are coaching women that this is not their calling. And when you just said we are showing up, like we have to make ourselves not show up, take a break, because it's actually our calling. Like I don't care now what I look like when I show up, because my voice is more important than my physical appearance sometimes, even though y'all might disagree with me. Y'all might be like, it might have been better if you cared a little more. But I'm so heavy, like on, I've got to get this out. I want to share this. I want somebody to try this product, or this is whatever about your body and how it works, or whatever. I'm just always talking about it. Why are women not showing up consistently on the things that they say they want to do? Is because that's actually not your calling. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think that just hit me right in that moment, that I think whomever is listening right now, you have to realize, just because you think that you should do that because society says you should, maybe it's not how you should do it. But still use your voice. But how can you use your voice to still impact? There was a podcast popped up on my phone of this couple that they've been doing YouTube for 5 years, and I just saw them, but she said that they've had a career prior to YouTube. He's written books. She's done all types of stuff, but I'm just now learning about this. And I'm like, but they were still using their voice, but differently. Yeah. You know what I mean? And is that you listening? I don't know.
No, I think that's a great point to drive home. Maybe it's not so much as a creative block. Maybe it's more that you've run out because this is not your area, right? I can think back to when I first started, in coaching. I was talking about, I don't even know what I was talking about. I was talking about something, but I couldn't stick with it. Like I just couldn't come up with enough stuff to stay consistent. I couldn't come up with enough ideas in order to get on and speak on. It wasn't until I got into my zone of genius where I'm like, oh, I could talk about this all day, anytime. It's why I think about it even when we're just having these random conversations. And you were like, oh, it's nothing that you said. No, it's actually something that you said. But it's something that you said, and the way that my mind works, that has turned it into a word, right? Why? Because I was created to bring a word to God's people. Like that is the call of my life in this season. That's my assignment, to bring a word. And so a random conversation, a cartoon, a song lyric can enter into this brain, and the way that the Lord has set it up, it will create something. But when I have struggled to come up with content consistently, making all the excuses for why I can't do video and all of those things. Remember when I could not come up with one video a week? Yeah. Do y'all remember that? TGIW? First of all, I do 6 videos a week. 6. Mm-hmm. 6. I could not do a video a week. I do 6. And it's not the same type of videos I was doing before. It doesn't have the same production right with it. But I can show up and do it every single day, Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, do the streaming, because it is my calling. And so I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, Amber Michelle Likens. Some of y'all can't get out here. You can't do the podcast. You can't do the YouTube. You can't show up on social media. It's not a creative block. It's a calling. Your calling is out of whack. You're not in alignment with your calling. I think that's good, Amber.
Yeah.
Olivia, if you could stop taking phone calls during our podcast.
I know, it's so rude.
Great. It really is.
Happening. You know what? I listened to y'all's Great Girlfriends podcast. I listened to that Friday, actually. And it was such a good conversation that I just have to, everybody, I know this is our podcast. Please subscribe, watch, listen, give us ratings, right? But y'all's conversation with Sybil doing that Friday was amazing. Speaking about like calling, like how she brought y'all together, of y'all's history and how you know each other, like that is 100% her strength, right? Like that is her zone.
Yes.
I feel like you know it, you sense it immediately when you're like hearing from somebody or whatever that looks like. I'm like, now that right there, they shook me. That is amazing. And if you don't feel like you either hear that from your audience or you feel so good after doing it, something's off. And it's okay to shift. You're not letting anybody down. You're letting yourself down more than anything, because you're not actually doing what God's designed you to do. He created you. So you got to tap into that. Now, I don't know how you're going to tap into that, but get in his word. Listen to Courage. Courage wants to help you, guide you. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, I think if you want to be consistent and you want to reduce like creative blocks and things like that so that you can continue to operate at a high level, it's definitely got to be like, that is the default. That's the given, right? Even though it's not a given, that is the given. The only way I will be able to sustain, right? We talk about sustainability, sustain this level of content at this level of excellence is only by, one, I got to start with it being in my calling. Then I got to make sure I got this physical thing down. Then I got to make sure I continue to be inspired. And sometimes you have to pay to get in the space. So Amber has a membership. Amber and Olivia have a membership together, and I have a membership. Sometimes you have to pay to get in a space so that you can be with like-minded individuals who are doing some of the things that you're doing so that you can be inspired by them, so that you can be encouraged by them. So be sure to check out our things. We'll put that in the show notes this time. Be sure to check out our memberships because sometimes you need to be in that space. That's another way. That is another way that you can stave against it. That's what.
And also, if you have spaces, you also need to be in other spaces because that's one of the ways that I stay in, because I pay to be in a space with other makers. And I actually just talked to her yesterday. We did a video chat, just like a one-on-one. So it's always, she's like, she knows I do YouTube. She is a maker. She's based in Australia or whatever, but she knows I do YouTube consistently because like she raves about that all the time. So all the other makers like, Olivia, she does a video every week. I'm like, well, I'm on hiatus right now. But yes, I did a video every week. And so she was like, I would love to talk to you. And she has a YouTube channel. She actually has more subscribers than me, but she's not consistent. And so she wanted to have a conversation about like how she could be more consistent. So I said all that to say that it's like, if you have a space, make sure you are in other spaces. You pay to be in spaces so you can be poured into, or people can, reciprocate the information. So
yeah, I definitely I pay to be in a space. As well. I think that it's so important to not be the lead all the time, right? To be able to get in and hear from people who are ahead of you or who've been doing it longer than you and be connected with other women that are on your level. I think that is very, very important, especially if you lead communities. So even if you lead community, get into a community. Even if you lead a beauty, I lead a Courageous Disciples community for ministry leaders and entrepreneurs and regular women also who want to get serious in their faith. I also pay to be in a community just like that. Yeah. It's not my community, but I pay to be in a community just like that. So even if you lead a community of whatever, get in a community of that thing so that you can continue to be inspired and such. So
and grow.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I love this.
This was good.
I know. This is good.
Yeah. Didn't know where this was going to go, but I think it went exactly where it needed to.
Yeah. I like it. Well, thank you guys for being here on YouTube. If you do want to watch the video portion of this, then head over to My CEO Squad and hit the subscribe because we do upload. We have been saying for a long time every Friday, but now we're uploading Monday, Tuesday because we want y'all to get it first of the week. So we're excited about that because we're talking about trending hot things, and we also want you to be in the know immediately. And then if you are listening on podcast form, then hey, give us a rating, and we want you to also download this and share it with a friend. So thank you for being here, and we'll catch you next time.
All right.
Bye. Later.